This is the Moonlight Graham Show, a freewheeling conversation with the role players, the underdogs, and guys with flat-out great stories in sports.
Hello and welcome back to the Moonlight Graham Show. And as college football wraps up, the Iowa State Cyclones just had probably their biggest bowl victory in school history as they bring home the Fiesta Bowl trophy to Ames, Iowa. You know, I thought it'd be a good time to highlight another great football team in the state of Iowa who is currently undefeated in the midst of the longest bye week we have ever seen. So our Moonlighter for today is the head coach of the Grandview Vikings, former Iowa State football player himself, Joe Woodley. Now, currently the Grandview Vikings are 6-0, but the season is going to continue once again in the spring when they will play a couple of more regular season games and then the NAIA playoffs. And they're currently ranked number 2 in the country. Joe Woodley was just named Conference Coach of the Year for the second year in a row. The only 2 years Joe Woodley has been the head coach, he has won the Conference Coach of the Year award. His career record as a head coach is 19-1. It doesn't get much better than that. But the Grandview Vikings, they got national title hopes, NAIA national title hopes in the spring, and they're looking to bring home Grandview's second national title. They also won it back in 2008 when Joe's dad, Mike Woodley, was the head coach of the Grandview Vikings, and Joe was also on that staff as a coach. So you probably recognize the name Mike Woodley and Joe Woodley and just the last name Woodley in general because this is a famous Iowa sports family. Mike Woodley, he's in the Northern Iowa Athletics Hall of Fame where he was a defensive back there. I think he still has the all-time interceptions record at UNI. Mike Woodley then got into coaching right after UNI and has been a legendary football coach over the past 40 plus years, where today he is recently started up the Mount Marty football program up in South Dakota, and Mike's even in the Iowa High School Football Hall of Fame as well. But then the 4 sons that Mike had, you had Matt, Andy, Brian, and Joe. They all not only played college sports themselves, but they have all followed in their dad's footsteps and got into coaching and have really made a name for themselves, an even bigger name for themselves coaching than they did playing. Joe, of course, played football at Iowa State under Dan McCarney and his dad, and he actually played on both sides of the ball at times as a linebacker and fullback. He's now, of course, the head coach at Grandview. We're talking to him today. His older brother, Brian, played football under his dad at St. Ambrose. He's now the head football coach at Johnston High School, of course, where Tommy Griffin is one of the best middle school coaches over at the Johnston system over there. Brother Andy Woodley played hoops at UNI and now helps out coaching over at Grandview with Joe. And then, of course, Matt Woodley played guard at Drake in basketball and now is on the Wake Forest basketball staff. So all of these guys, coaching and sports are in their blood. It's a highly competitive family. And these guys know what they're doing when it comes to coaching. Now, I always wanted to have the Woodley brothers on, and I think it would be a dream episode if someday I got all 4 brothers, and heck, even throw Dad Mike in there to get them all in the same room for a podcast. I think that would be awesome. But for this episode, I sat down with Joe, and we talked for a little over an hour, and we had a ton of fun. See, back in the 80s, mid to late 80s, the Woodleys actually lived in Fort Dodge, Iowa, where I am from. And even before we started recording, Joe and I were comparing notes. What street did you grow up on? Who were you friends with? Who do you know? That type of stuff. And we came to find out that we grew up essentially like a block and a half away from each other in Fort Dodge. We know a ton of the same people. And so this was a lot of fun because even though we have never met before, we have a lot in common. We know a lot of the same people, and it made for a really fun episode and interview. And I think you guys are really going to enjoy this episode of the Moonlight Graham Show because like I said, as the college football season is winding down, it gives you a little bit different perspective about what Grandview is dealing with, what NAIA is dealing with. I mean, heck, you have Northern Iowa up in Cedar Falls that has not even played a game yet, and they're planning on playing a spring schedule. Grandview's doing a little bit of both, and I think that's really unique, especially this year and in college football. So this is really fun perspective, and I think it's timely. So enjoy today's episode with Moonlighter Joe Woodley. And if you like what we're doing here on the Moonlight Graham Show, guys, make sure to check out our website at moonlightgrahamshow.com. We have some great new Moonlight Chronicles up on the website. You can also follow the show on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We love hearing from you guys each and every week. So enjoy today's episode with Moonlighter Joe Woodley. All right, I'm here in the Grandview football offices with the head coach of the undefeated Grandview Vikings, Joe Woodley. Joe, thanks for joining the Moonlight Graham Show.
It's definitely an honor to be on Moonlight Graham. Been listening to it for however long you've had it, since the very beginning, and it's, of course, always good to sit down with a former or a fellow Fort Dodge guy.
That's right. That's right. So, I bring up that you guys are undefeated, and I said that kind of in the current tense here, because you guys are on like the middle of the longest bye week there has ever been, right? Like you're 6-0, and your next game is April 14th or something like that.
Yeah. So right now, it is it's wild. It's unprecedented. There's no great way to prepare for it because nobody's ever done it. We think we've got a decent plan in place. It's really not, to me, we get spring practice every year, just like every other college football team. And, that's essentially how we're going to approach it, except we just get games at the end. That's kind of the carrot you get to dangle out in front of these guys, because in normal spring balls, you don't get a game, or you get an inter-squad scrimmage, whatever you want to call it. So, I think that's what's going to make it, a little more desirable for our guys. Spring ball is usually, kind of a, rough time in the football season, just because, you're just beating the crap out of one another for a few weeks, and then the prize is you get to do it one more time in kind of a game format. But we did get, so the season was frustrating. We had at two different times we had games canceled on a Thursday before a Saturday game, and our goal, we had 9 scheduled. We got 6 played, and then at the end of the year, 2 teams in our league canceled their seasons, and they happened to be our last 2 games, of course. so we didn't. So we at least we knew with those that we were done, but the flip side is we're going to get one of them back. So we're going to get one game before our playoffs. So April 3rd, we're going to play at Peru State, and then we have a week in between. And actually, we might be taking a JV team up to Iowa Central. So those other guys that aren't maybe on the playoff roster will get an opportunity to play a game in the spring too. So that'll be good. And then our first round of the playoffs will start April 17th.
I know you're talking like it's, we always play spring ball. There's just a different carrot out there. And next year, the carrot might be, a national championship. But are you guys going to like lose any guys to graduation or like some of this transfer stuff? Because after a season or after, a semester, there's always a little bit of changeover in roster. And technically, you guys are still in a season. I don't even know how to phrase that. But are you guys going to lose some guys to like graduation when you guys suit up again in April?
As of right now, no. I've spoke with all of our seniors last 2 weeks ago, and we have 32 seniors, which is quite a few seniors for a college program. And I think that just speaks to the how well we treat these kids here. They want to be here, and Des Moines and Grandview is a good place to be. But I spoke with each and every one of them, and they've all said they're going to be here in the spring. The other thing that was told to us, probably, I don't know, with a few weeks left in the season, is these kids all get their year back. So there's also a possibility for these kids to come back for another year if they want it. So. But I did kind of give these kids a deadline a little bit. I said I would like to know around Christmas time. So I didn't make them tell me right then and there when I met with them. I said, you guys have got to – I need to know for recruiting purposes. The school kind of needs to know because, we have to be at certain numbers and things like that. So we just can't bring in the normal amount of recruits that we usually do, or else this squad's going to be too big and it's
Right.
It's going to be imbalanced. Like I said, it just kind of goes along with everything else. It's unprecedented. We just don't know. But moving forward, we're going to have at least every senior that is been in the program. They're going to be there. Now you're still going to have we may have some some freshmen or whatever. That may not be here in the fall, things like that. Kind of like you had mentioned before, there's going to be some attrition a little bit, but we've been lucky. We don't have much of it here. Kids like being here, and so it'll be an interesting next few weeks to just keep that roster in place and know where we're at with that.
Is there a chance that somebody plays in April that did not play this fall?
Yeah. There's probably a really good. Well, I shouldn't say a really good chance. Because you've got to be careful, because you could have, in theory, recruited a transfer,
right?
Like right now, and they could be ready for second semester. But I told our staff, guys, we got to be careful with that because there is a certain amount of chemistry we got right now, and unless there's a glaring need. That happened during the fall or a position where you didn't see production like you really wanted. Maybe that's an opportunity to maybe do that. But again, there's no guarantee a transfer is going to solve that. Now, if you absolutely know he's a difference maker and things like that, that's a whole nother story because, we're all competitive. We still want to win and, not that we're going to win at all costs or anything like that. But, these guys came here. A lot of them came here with the notion of having the possibility to make the postseason and make a run at a national championship. It hasn't been done here in, 7 years. But we got close last year. We were on the doorstep, and our guys feel like they can kind of taste it a little bit, but that doesn't mean anything's going to happen. And, a lot of things go into a national championship. I've been involved with one, and you need a lot of luck along the way. You need to stay healthy, something we didn't do last year, and that probably affected us a little bit down the stretch. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to be a substantial amount of guys that are going to play in the spring that didn't in the fall. But again, another carrot is dangling for, maybe a freshman that wasn't quite physically ready. He gets this whole off season in the weight room, and all of a sudden he becomes a different looking player in the spring. So there's possibility for it. We only get to dress 57 guys in the playoffs. So the spots are limited. We did have a 6-0 season. You don't want to mess with a whole lot of that. Guys were pretty good this fall. Getting back to your question, there certainly could be some new guys that are going to be in there, but I like where we're at and who we have right now, and at least that's somewhat of the that's pretty much the plan moving forward.
Joe, the Woodleys are kind of an Iowa famous family. Right, because of your dad's a UNI Hall of Famer. He might still have the interceptions record there. I didn't check today, but I think last week when I looked it up, he had like over 20 interceptions during his time there. Of course, you have your brother Brian's a football coach, your brother Matt's a basketball coach, your brother Andy has helping you out here at Grandview. He's coached basketball. You guys all were athletes during your playing careers. What was that Woodley household like growing up?
Oh. That's a loaded question. Number one, I was kind of the whipping boy.
Well, you're the youngest.
Well, I'm the youngest, and you know that coming from a big family. But that was definitely the case most of my childhood. But by the time we got older and probably too mature, that was the time I could whip their ass, and that wasn't the case when we were growing up. But no, it was a competitive household, and I say competitive, but we all looked out for one another, and that's kind of the thing that happens when you move, when you get up and move your family and things like that. We did that a couple different times, and it wasn't easy to do, but looking back, it was probably the best thing that ever happened to us. Number one, it made us closer as brothers, and And I look at my current profession, man, I mean, I've gotten to know people in different pockets of the state that has helped us with, recruiting or whatever. And again, it's this, you live a life and it's all about meeting people and making connections.
Right.
And, it certainly is a lot of fun, but, we were all each other's number one fans. And, we were fortunate to, to be raised by a coach and my mom. She stayed at home and watched us. She babysat half the neighborhood in Fort Dodge, and so
was your mom the disciplinarian in the household?
She was probably the toughest in the household.
I mean, she had to be with 4 boys at home.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Dad was usually off working, and of course things just seemed to be different back then. Mom stayed home, and they kind of took care of things, and my, I'd certainly like to say my mom did a pretty good job. I think we all turned out okay, and but yes, nobody steps out of line with Betsy, and my friends to this day were 40 years old and they still wouldn't do it. But she was, she definitely ran the household, and we all knew that. It was always you had to go ask Mom first for stuff, and but yeah, it was. It was a really neat childhood. I can't I can't say anything but that. It was a lot of fun. Athletics were a huge part of what we did, and it's kind of made us who we are, and it's given us so much. And I think that's why we're all in coaching. We want to give back because we know what it did for us. And again, I thought everybody's dad was a high school coach and teacher. We just didn't know any different. We were never, we never had everything we wanted, but we certainly had everything we needed. And, a pretty fortunate childhood, that's for sure.
When you talk about like your hometown, because you've been in Osage, you've been in Fort Dodge, you've been in Davenport, you went to high school West Des Moines Valley. Where's hometown for you, Joe?
That's a great question. I think about that often, trying to figure out where I really learned things, and who am I, who am I most of, from where I'm from. So it's definitely not Fort Dodge. I was only there for I was born in Fort Dodge in 1980, and I don't even know what my dad's first year was in Fort Dodge, 83 maybe.
Yeah, I think it was 83.
So I was young, don't really remember Osage, but the one thing, that I definitely remember about Fort Dodge is the people. And I just loved, at the time I didn't know it, but looking back, all the great people, that we were around. Our neighborhood. Shoot, we were just talking, off air here, and realized, we knew all the same people in the same neighborhood.
Yeah, we grew up in the same neighborhood.
Yeah, exactly. So, but you look back, you look at people like Dutch Huseman, Don Miller, Sam Mosier, Matt Miller, just so many people that I was around, and of course my friend's parent, some of my friends' parents, and just so many good people. Like I was telling somebody the other day, it was, what you did after game, because we were talking about, we really don't get together as coaches enough in the big city, because you just got places to go, and it's a bigger city, and shoot, we just won the conference title, and we just act like it's just supposed to happen every year. And of course our last game was a little bit different situation, but I look back at my dad's time at Fort Dodge, and every Friday after every game, that whole coaching staff was in our garage after the game, and if they lost, by the end of the night they probably won. You know what I mean? By them just sitting there and talking about it. So, but it was. I would like to say that's kind of Fort Dodge is what I just look back and just remember all the great people that were there, and then Davenport. I would probably. Not to piss off anybody from Fort Dodge, because I loved it there. Still love going back there. But Davenport, I just feel like molded me a little bit to who I was. You had to be pretty tough, not that you don't Dodge, but Davenport's a very similar place. I just started to get into more competitive athletics when we moved to Davenport, and it was a very competitive place to grow up in all sports. So because when I moved to Davenport, we got to play tackle football in third grade. So I was very excited to make that move. So I got to play tackle football before I would have, had I stayed in Fort Dodge. Davenport has really good baseball, Little League baseball. And basketball, that was kind of when AAU was taking off, but we played in we grew up Catholic, so I went to a Catholic grade school from 3rd to 7th grade, and we had the Catholic League for basketball. It was the biggest thing in the world. The head coach from Davenport Assumption would come and watch games, so it's just a different time. And but like I said, it was that probably, I would say, Davenport made me a little bit more of who I am. My dad was coaching college. I was hanging out with college guys, whether my mom knew it or not, or liked it or not. That's kind of what we did. And but that was probably the most fun I had. I just wasn't quite old enough in Fort Dodge to really grasp what was going on. And then I moved to West Des Moines. Now a whole different dynamic than Davenport and Fort Dodge. Still a lot of very good people in Des Moines, West Des Moines. I've enjoyed all stops, but I would say now this has actually become home because I've been here so long. But I would say kind of growing up, by the age of 18, I would probably, getting back to your question in the longest way possible, it was probably those years I spent in Davenport are kind of what I think made me who I am or was, kind of before I got out of high school.
When was the first time you beat up one of your older brothers?
It hasn't happened yet.
What?
Like I said, I think we were a little too mature by the time I was ready to do that.
All right.
Now, there's been times I've grabbed him a few times and, just said, hey, you guys are lucky that, that we're all grown up now. And, we get a kick out of it. But yeah, that was – I wish I could do it right now. Actually, just now that you're bringing it up, I'd like to get them in an octagon and have a big pay-per-view event with me and my two brothers, winner take all type deal.
Well, do you ever get in your brother's face? Your brother Andy, I mean, he's on the staff, right? And so like things get heated on the sidelines.
Well, Andy knows everything. Of course, he's never done anything wrong or said anything wrong. So. And one of his part-time jobs, he's an official, football official, and so he knows every rule. He knows everything. And Andy Jepson, another guy from up in the Fort Dodge area, Manson guy, they're both on staff. And I warn. It's usually the officials are warning me about what's going to happen, and I said, no, I'm going to warn you guys about these two guys on our sideline because they're not going to shut up the whole game, and they're going to have the answer for everything. And I've had to jump them at least twice a game, both Andy and Andy. That I haven't gotten in his face much other than that. We're pretty good buds still, and but sometimes I do need to. I'm still the head coach. I'm the head coach for 3 hours on Saturday. I know he's my older brother, but he's got to listen to me for 3 hours. That's for sure. And sometimes he doesn't out there, but he usually knows when to say when he knows he's taking it too far. So you had a great high school career at Valley, right? You talked about Fort Dodge, you talked about Davenport, and then you talked about moving to West Des Moines, and you were, maybe the best high school football player in the state coming out of high school your senior year. Your dad had been at McCarney's staff for a few years at that point. I think your dad was one of McCarney's first hires when he came on at Iowa State. Was there ever a question that you were going to play anywhere else but for your dad at Iowa State? No. Well, in all reality, there was one other Division I school talking to me, and it was Minnesota, and it was Steve Loney. And I think that's probably in large part because he and my dad were friends, and he had just came from left Iowa State and went up to Minnesota. But and then I had all the usual suspects with Division IIs and Northern Iowa a little bit. But I'll never forget it. We had got beaten early in the playoffs, or not early, second round by Dowling, which is a sore subject. We lost to them in the second round of the playoffs with. Arguably, and I bet you could ask Coach Swenson over at Valley, one of the most talented teams he's ever had. But it was the following week, and of course I was feeling sorry for myself. We got beat my senior year, and we were number one in the state all year, and all that good stuff. And I believe it was a Tuesday afternoon, and my dad had called and said, "Hey, Coach McCarney and I are going to come over and do a home visit, and make sure your rear end is there." He said it a little differently, but it was at like 4:00 on a Tuesday afternoon, 4:30, and I'm like, gosh, I don't even know what home visits are. I've never,
Right.
I don't even know what he's talking about. But
And it's your dad coming over,
and it's my dad, and he's bringing the boss man with him, and and I didn't even have the TV on. I was sitting there on my hands, basically right in front of the fireplace. I wasn't even in a chair or anything, and I'm just sitting there, and Coach Mack and Dad walk in, and Coach Mack's like a hurricane. He's always fired up, and of course he's got me ready to get up and run through the wall, right away as soon as he's there, and because they were making a couple other home visits that night, and he was telling me his plan and this, that, and the other, and and then it just kind of got to a point, and then Coach Mack just says, "Well, I just want to let you know I'm here to offer you, a full ride scholarship to Iowa State," and of course my jaw hits the floor because shoot, I didn't think I was good enough to play there, but obviously he saw something, and and the crazy part is he didn't tell my dad. So my
Really?
my dad didn't even know, before they walked in, and of course, my dad, I haven't seen him cry many times. He's an emotion. He can be emotional. It's not that he's one of those real old school guys that never shows us emotions, but he certainly did that in that moment. I did too, and and Coach Mack, he didn't even give me the chance really to say, "Oh, let me think about this." Not that I was anyway, but he just how's it feel to be a Cyclone, and and then. There was really no wavering. That's what I wanted to do. The second Mac hired my dad at Iowa State, obviously we all instantly became huge Cyclone fans because that's what his paycheck and all that depended upon,
right.
And me eating, and so that takes you to a different level of fandom, when you're in that situation. But no, I still am huge Cyclone, even though. My coach isn't there anymore, and I thought he got a kind of a rough deal on the way out, but it's still Iowa State, and of course this year's been really, really fun to watch all that, but definitely glad I made that decision to be a Cyclone.
So we're sitting here, 4 or 5 days before Iowa State plays in the Big 12 championship game. Let's go back, 20 years ago to when McCarney's in your living room and your dad's on staff. What was Iowa State football like then? Because it's come a long way.
Well, they hadn't been to a bowl game
since the Peach Bowl in like 1978.
Yeah, you'd know that a lot better than me. But yeah, it was just but everybody saw Coach Mack's enthusiasm, his vision. I just think everybody fed off that within that athletic department. The true blue Cyclone fans, they saw that. Because it didn't look good at one time. Because I think in Coach Mack's fourth year, I want to say, I think we won one game. And today, man, that stuff just doesn't fly. But I think everybody saw it coming. They were competitive, and he had a visionary, I think, as the athletic director, and Gene Smith, who's at Ohio State now, and he still believed in Mack. He hired him, and then in that fifth year, he got back to 4 wins, and that was arguably one of the most talented teams I was on. That was the year I redshirted. We just lost some really close games that year in '99, and then 2000 was the first year I got to play, and I'd like to say it was because of me, even though it certainly wasn't. I had a very limited role on that team, but but that was what made it so special, to be a part of that, to be the first team in a while. I should say, to go to a bowl game, and 20-some years they hadn't been to one, or they haven't. I don't know if they'd ever won one, or maybe they.
I don't think they had ever won one. They lost the Peach Bowl, I think, in '78. Yeah,
so to be a part of a winning one and actually scoring a touchdown, in that bowl game, man, what a flood of memories you're bringing back just talking about it. But kind of getting back to your original question, and did I think it was possible to for Iowa State to get to that point? I always I probably not then. I mean, I thought because back then it was just, hey, let's just get to a bowl game first. Let's not talk about Big 12 titles and that stuff will come when you consistently, do these other things. And for what they're doing now, I think a lot of it has gone into it. I'm not taking one thing away from Matt Campbell because I think he's phenomenal. I think we're lucky to have him, and he's a really good coach. But there's a lot of things in place now that coaches in the past, or Coach McCarney especially, didn't have. These facilities that Iowa State has right now are
incredible.
I mean, they're not,
and they're constantly upgrading.
Exactly,
like there's more stuff coming.
There just wasn't the steady flow of income coming into that. Mac had to do all that on his own. He had to raise the money. He helped raise the money for that indoor that they get to use now. He just didn't get to use. He didn't have all these resources at his disposal. And
did you guys feel that when you were there? Like, did you feel like you were fighting an uphill battle against the rest of the Big 12?
No doubt about it. Now, Mac wouldn't let us, bitch.
Yeah, you're not going to talk about
right.
it because you don't make excuses.
But we all knew.
Yeah.
We'd go into these stadiums and see and look at their their training facilities and indoor facilities. My senior year, we're getting ready to go freeze our ass off out at practice. We're walking by the construction of the new indoor building that they're currently in, and so those we had to practice in the old Iowa State Rec Center on 50 yards of basically
the lead
house carpet. Yeah. I mean, and we had to practice in shifts. Offense went for 12 periods, defense went for 12 periods. It was just a different time. We didn't know any better. Things were different. There just wasn't this. I think this TV money has really taken Division I football to a different level, and Iowa State's certainly been a beneficiary of that. And thank goodness that they, with all that conference talk, that they were able to stay in the Big 12. All those things matter when you're trying to get a program turned around. And in Matt Campbell's defense, he's done it. And that's I shouldn't say his defense. To his credit, he's done it. Because he knows, there's not a bunch of excuses you can use right now in regards to material things. Now, you still got to have the heartbeat of that place has got to be winning, and he's doing all of that for sure.
So how much of the kind of facilities stuff really matters on the field? You mentioned the practice facility, and of course, when you're northern school, you have to have an indoor practice facility nowadays at a big-time program like Iowa State. But how much of that other stuff really matters to the product that's put out on the field? Or does it mostly help getting the recruits and the talent to come here, and then you're able to put a better product? Or is it we can do more with the kids that we have here if we have this other stuff?
Well, I think you answered the question there. I think it's to get them there.
You got to get them.
I think you need to have those shiny, and it may not matter so much with local kids, but we all know Iowa. We just don't have a huge population base now. I'll argue to the death that there's a lot of good football players in here that don't end up getting to go to Iowa or Iowa State.
Well, you're proving that here at Grandview.
Well, maybe, but I think they've always been able to get Iowa local kids regardless of the facility, just because that's how we all grew up. We were a fan of one or the other.
For whatever reason, we liked Jack Trice Stadium before we should have.
Exactly. So, but to attract a kid from out of state or maybe from somewhere warm, he don't want to be practicing outside when it's 20 degrees outside. Right. He wants to see, okay, we're going to be going inside if it ever gets cold. I just got to worry about it maybe on a cold game day, and then adrenaline will take care of that. So, but yeah, I think those things matter to just get the kids to come visit. Once they see it, they're like, oh man, this place is pretty special. And again, that doesn't make me right. That's just what I believe.
Well, what about this? This is one of my things. I'm like a traditionalist at heart, and I've been a Cyclone fan since I was born. And so, it's Cardinal and gold, right? It's Cardinal and gold. And I'm sitting across from Joe Woodley, what are your school colors here? Gray or red and white, or
yeah,
gray and white? Yeah. So it's red and white, and you got a black overcoat on. Grandview, you guys have the black uniforms. You've done a lot of uniform combos here at Grandview. Iowa State, they're walking out in black about every other game now. Campbell's a big fan of the black. Does that
Does it matter to recruits to change up? Do the uniforms matter? Because I'll shut up about it on Twitter if it actually makes a difference to bring better players.
Oh, if it does, then that's that's bad. I think it's more or less just it's just to kind of keep kids' attention nowadays. I don't know, to answer your
Is it like a
question.
social media thing?
I sure think you're going to school for the wrong reasons if that's why you're picking a school to do uniforms. But
you guys are doing it too.
We do. We just have 3 sets, but I only have 1 pair of pants. So
okay.
That was kind of our way to justify it. We only wear white pants, and so that third jersey is just like having a road game pants or whatever. So. But black is in our school colors. That's the difference between us and between us and Iowa State. And I'll be honest, it doesn't bother me like once a year. But yeah, it's been a lot this year. Now there may be some superstitions involved, and I understand that. They're winning a lot of games, and maybe they've all been in the black, and I don't remember what they wore in the opener, probably red. So maybe that's why they're staying away from it.
That's the other part of me. Because I'm a traditionalist, I also believe in don't mess with a winning streak.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And so, if they got it going here, and if it takes black uniforms to beat Oklahoma in the Big 12 title game,
I don't care if they wear pink.
Yeah, wear them. But, let's just be honest about what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Anyway, I want to go back to you playing for your old man. I played college sports, and there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the locker room, in the clubhouses, that the coaches hear that you're like, man, I'd never say that to my parents. Whether it's girls or whether it's parties or whether there's all this other stuff that happens on a college campus that coaches are privy to, that sometimes parents aren't privy to. Now, you didn't have that because your dad was right in the locker room with you. Was that ever weird for you, or was it always like, my dad's been a coach my whole life. He's been my whole coach. There is no border here.
Yeah. Yeah, I probably shouldn't tell this story, but I guess I will. So getting back to, coaches privy to information. And sometimes they're privy to information that the players don't even know that they know yet.
Yeah.
So I don't know what year I was. Junior. It had to have been my junior year. I was living off campus in the house that I finished, so I had to have been at least a junior, and I wasn't a bad student at Iowa State. Let me first and foremost get that out there. Wasn't an honor roll student either. I was just kind of right down the middle, and so anyways, I'm sitting in my living room with Jordan Karstens, my roommate, and we're sitting there. I don't think he played video games. We must have been watching something on CMT or something. I don't know that's probably what he was watching. But so we're sitting there, just minding our own business and BSing, and all of a sudden you hear I don't even know if he knocked. No, I'm pretty sure my dad just walked right in. He walked right in. And granted, this is about midterm time.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Midterm time, and I don't know if it was probably the springtime. I would have been my best guess. And he walks in, and he's got a paper in his hand, waving it in the air, and it's my midterm report. And needless to say, it wasn't very good at that point in time. I'll just say that I did finish strong. But this may have motivated me. He may have said a few choice words, and it was pretty scary because I had no idea. Like, I had no idea that they already had the midterms, and Jordan, my buddy, about every time we're together having a beer or something, he brings that story up. And Jordan said he couldn't even make eye contact with my dad. He was screaming so loud, and he said he was just looking straight forward at the TV, and I kind of was too, because I didn't know if my dad had steam coming out of his ears or not. But certainly, lesson learned. But like I said, I did finish strong, and of course, we all know I wouldn't be in this position if I didn't graduate
That's
college.
Right.
So
go to class, kids.
I did find a way, and so I remember those times when one of my players here, may have. I don't get real worked up over midterms. I'll just be real honest with you. It's how you finish.
Just make sure you get your butt in gear if they're not where they're supposed to be.
Exactly.
So you've at Iowa State played both offense and defense. You know, you mentioned earlier, you scored a touchdown in a bowl game. You were a fullback for 3 years. I think you scored 6 touchdowns playing fullback, and then later on in your career, you switched over to linebacker, which, of course, you had played all throughout high school. So offense or defense?
Defense is way more fun to play. The fullback piece, now this was back when teams were using it a little bit more. They used it, so the year I sat out, my freshman year, we were using it quite a bit. We had our O coordinator at the time was Pete Hayner, pro-style guy. He's still in the NFL coaching. I think he's with Carolina. I mean, I'm not sure where he's at anymore. Or no, he'd be wherever Ron Rivera is. That's kind of been his
Washington.
guy. But anyways, he liked to use the fullback, and that was my true freshman year. And you know, I was looking over there at that fullback position, and because I just wanted to play. I wanted to get on the field, whether it be special teams somehow, some way, because I was used to playing. I didn't really like standing on the sidelines and watching. And I came in with a couple other freshmen linebackers at Iowa State, pretty good players, and they were actually playing, you know, as true freshmen, probably a little more advanced than I was, or a little more ready to play, I guess. And I just it's not that I saw the writing on the wall and I was ready to give up or anything like that, but
you saw a way to get on the field.
Exactly. And again, not that the fullbacks were bad, but one was a senior, you know, so I'm thinking, okay, he's got another year or just this year, and then shoot, that thing's going to be open. I think I'm as good as anybody else, and you know, that's at that position. So we made the move. I talked to Tony Alford about it. He's at Ohio State right now. I just said, hey, you know, what do you think of this? And he loved it, of course, and you know, and then we kind of made that move. And but as time went on, you know, the fullback just kind of got phased out of offenses, and you know, I did get it go in, you know, during the times where we could score a touchdown, you know, the 1 yard line, you know, that type of thing, and that's fun. You know, you get to say you scored touchdowns and all that, but you still want to be a little bit more involved, and then, you know, it just, like I said, it just kind of went away. And then I don't know if it was Coach Mack or Coach Skodany or somebody had just approached me my junior year and just said, hey, we need some depth at linebacker. You know what the hell you're doing on offense. You know, when we need to put you out there, we will. And so junior year did both, and that was probably the most fun I had. You know, just kind of being able to go back and forth, and you know, we had a pretty good season my junior year, and so that happened. And then, you know, I did pretty well junior year, and they wanted to just say, okay, let's make this full-time switch my senior year, and did that. And you know, and then I was on the field about every play. So a little better in that regard, but certainly a defensive mentality. You know, I'm a defensive type of coach. You're not going to see PlayStation numbers at Grandview ever. A little more conservative. We're not going to blitz a lot. We're going to take care of the football. And I coach defense for 10 or 11 seasons here as a defensive coordinator. Did offensive coordinator for one, and now head coach for two. But definitely a defensive guy at heart.
Who's the toughest guy to tackle?
Like in the Big 12?
That you had to tackle, yeah.
Cedric Benson, and it's not even close.
Ooh.
Yeah, he made me miss in about I can't even tell you how tight of a spot it was, and he made me, like, I think I'm getting ready to go make the hit of the game, and I just grabbed air. And he's a bigger guy. You know, he was a bigger guy.
Oh, yeah, he ran over a lot of guys.
Yeah, he was, and he was, yes. I just remember one specific play with him, but Darren Sproles has to be, you know, right in that.
Well,
mix
when
as
we had
well,
Mosier on the podcast, he talked about Darren Sproles being impossible to tackle.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know what that guy is, 5'6", you know, whatever.
He's tiny.
But yeah, he was
born in Waterloo, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no doubt. But yeah, he was good. But Cedric Benson's just the one that immediately came to my mind, just because of just the one play. You know, I specifically remember, and like it was 3rd and short, and like I'm getting ready to make him kick a field goal or punt, and he makes me miss and gets, I don't know, 7 or 8 more yards, and I'm just like, man, I'm definitely not going to the NFL. That's for dang sure.
Well, what was the best game you ever played?
Oh, like statistics-wise, or just
in your head,
involved
when you think that was as good of a football player as I ever was during that game.
Oh man, probably my junior year, Nebraska. So 02, Iowa State hadn't beaten Nebraska since whatever, maybe it was 92 or the Marv Seiler deal.
Yeah, the Seiler.
So probably 02. I was always on every special team, so I enjoyed that, and I got to play offense that game. I got to play defense, and then at the end of the game, probably one of the bigger hits of my career. I had about 3 or 4 in about probably a 6 or 7 play series, or 2 different possessions. Came out, had a big hit on a quarterback, big hit on a running back. Kid Mosier beating the 2. Marcus Simmons.
Oh, Marquise Simmons, yeah. Davenport North, I think.
Got a pretty good hit on him. And then the play to end the game, they run a screen. I think the guy's name was Josh Davis, running back for Nebraska. And I'm the opposite backer on the other side. And it's the last play of the game, It's just like, I'm going to go hit somebody anyway. And it's Nebraska, frustration city. We've never beat them. And they throw a screen to him, and, he tries to cut it kind of back to the middle of the field, and I catch him. I catch him good, sprint right through his chin strap, and he fumbles the ball, and we recover it, and kind of a fun memory. I think Brent Musburger might even have said my name because he had the game that day.
That's cool.
So that was really cool. But yeah, that game meant so much. I think number one to all of us, but I know Coach Mack, because that's when Nebraska was Nebraska.
Right.
That the folks listening today or younger people didn't realize how dominant they were, and they were, and that was kind of midway through the year. So they kind of struggled down the stretch and were just okay. But at the time, I think we were both ranked, it was a big ball game. And
I remember watching
and we embarrassed them, you know. And so it was, and going to those Nebraska games in those early years, when they were winning back-to-back national titles.
All you're doing, you're just hoping Troy Davis gets 100 yards.
Exactly.
That's all you cared about.
Exactly. And for Coach Mack and that staff and these players, all of our players, to get to that point of bringing us to a point where we can not even just compete with Nebraska, but like I said, we embarrassed them that day.
So what's cool about your family is you guys were all really good athletes. Your dad was a good athlete. You and your 4 brothers were good athletes. But now you've all transitioned into good coaches. Your dad's a Hall of Fame coach. Your brother Brian's coach over at Johnston, big high school program. Matt's over at Wake Forest now. Andy's won a state championship in basketball, helping you out here at Grandview. You're the head coach at Grandview. And it's cool that you've transitioned into that kind of second career in sports. So what have you stolen from your dad or brothers from a coaching standpoint, not necessarily a playing standpoint, that has made you the coach that you are today?
Yeah, it's fresh in my mind right now because it's what we've probably had 5 or 6 recruiting weekends here or visits, and it's what I finish all my visits, or when I'm talking to these recruits, it's what I finish with. And to my knowledge, it started with Lou Holtz. I don't know if he got it from somebody else, but I know it started with Lou Holtz. Barry Alvarez got it from him at Notre Dame. And then Alvarez went to Wisconsin. Coach Mack got it from Alvarez, and then my dad got it from Mack. And it's it's the do right rule. Okay, everybody knows the difference between right and wrong. That's how at least those are the types of kids in our program. These are the things that we want them to to follow. Just doing the right thing all the time. We all know the difference between right and wrong. Making good choices off the field. What else is the right thing to do? It's saying please. It's saying thank you. It's opening doors. It's a pretty simple. It takes care of a lot of things. Because I've heard of coaches saying or coaches that have 1,000,000 rules. To me, that's just 1,000,000 rules to break. If you can just focus on one thing, and it's right out here on our, right here on the locker room before these guys go out for practice or games. It's just doing the right thing, and I think that carries a lot of weight. And if you do that and your kids follow that in your program, because you win this game, I hear Matt Campbell say it all the time, you win with people. And he couldn't be more 100% correct. And, and I think we've, at least here at Grandview, which is where most of my coaching experience has been, that's 100% the reason. We've got great administration. We've had great coaches. We've had great kids, great players in this program. And that's what it is. It's because I think they're all doing the right thing, doing what they're supposed to be doing, and I think that's led to our success.
How do you know what guys are the right fit for Grandview? You guys are an NAIA program, right? And so as you're recruiting kids, sometimes I got to imagine you might go out and watch a game and you think, well, we could spend time recruiting that kid, but he might end up at a Division I program, or he might end up at wanting something different than what we can offer here at Grandview. But then at the same time, you want to make sure like you guys are probably above a Division III program and some Division II programs. And like, how do you know where you fit in the mix of like talent when you're recruiting?
Yeah, really good question. And if you find the answer, let me know.
Yeah.
I just think it's sometimes it's a waiting game because yes, I mean. There's a high school game you could go to that I could take my 7-year-old daughter to, and she can say that guy's a really good player. Yeah. Those are the types of guys, in all honesty, it's going to be hard for us to get at least out of high school. Now we've gotten, some difference makers, but it may have been, they've transferred or something like. We have 2 guys that I've talked to every NFL team about this year. One might get drafted. The other's for sure going to get picked up as a free agent. Both for sure will get picked up as free agents. So
wow.
Those are kind of kids we can get kind of on the rebound somewhere. Those are the type of kids we probably couldn't have gotten out of high school just because they're so talented. And, the Division I's they got – because the thing is we don't give full rides, okay? That's kind of the biggest difference. Now, we give athletic scholarship money and, so – sometimes you just can't win financially, mm-hmm. and I know that plays into most kids' decisions, But then from there, you kind of get a feel for what's realistic. Not that we're not going to try and recruit everybody, but especially nowadays, it's pretty easy. I shouldn't say easy, but the Division I coaches, even the 1AA, they're I don't know if doing a good job is the way to put it, but they're so far in the future in their recruiting that these kids have already had their offers. These guys, these higher levels are a year to 2 years ahead. So if a kid's getting offered by Iowa and Iowa State, we're not going to,
mm-hmm.
waste our time talking to them. And, we may say hello and maybe get him on a rebound or something like that, especially, a scholarship type player. And the other thing is we've got some really successful junior colleges in Iowa where they're selling those kids,
right,
on a Division I down the road. And shoot, I'd do the same thing. But we've made a good living off of Iowa Central, Iowa Western, and Ellsworth kids too. That by the time they've been in college for 2 years, they kind of know, okay, this isn't happening. I've been through this recruiting process before. So we do a pretty good job there, and it's usually with just Iowa kids that are at those 3 schools, and then the high school kids we get. It's just finding the right, fit for what we want, what we need. And, it's those kids either haven't gotten a scholarship or they're an inch short, maybe a step slow.
Right. But still damn good football players.
Well, they got a chip on their shoulder, and that's why I really do love coaching at this level because every kid we have in our program loves football. You have to. We're not playing in front of 60,000 and getting all kinds of swag and gear and
right.
Having $1 million facilities. Even though, believe me, I'd love to have all those things, but I also understand where we're at, and so that's the neat part about it is I think that's for the most part what you see. Our linemen are going to be probably a couple inches shorter than Division I. Our skill guys may be. Their skill guys are 4'4", maybe ours are 4'5" to 4'6",
mm-hmm.
and that's not always the case. But there's always kind of something, But I also think there's been several times where I think they've missed on certain guys we have,
mm-hmm.
So there's no exact science in recruiting, but I've been here long enough, and I think I got a pretty good idea of what works, and kind of the best way to go about it.
Now, Joe, I'm a little bit disappointed you're not rocking your national championship ring. I'm assuming you have one, And how often do you pull that one out from the 13 year?
I had that question today. So, and again, I even told the mom, I'm like, I hate looking this egotistical and arrogant, but So I got
this is what we do.
So we're at our stadium office right now. I got an office up on campus, and I got my wife bought me a ring case, and this is actually a pretty neat story about my dad. I've only bought one ring since we've been here, so we got to buy them. Again, the Division I folks, they probably just give them to you, I would imagine. Well, actually, I didn't buy this one, so I bought our first conference ring. But conference is kind of the expectation around here now. Back then, it certainly wasn't. I mean, we started this program in 2008, and we won our first conference in 2011. But we the year we won the national title, we all got that. And President Henning, our president here, he did take care of that.
That's
bill.
Cool.
So, and that guy, he loves football. He loves Grandview. He loves every sport here. We're very lucky to have a president with his support, his backing. But getting back to that story with my dad, so last Christmas, of course, he'd already moved on from here, and I told you I only had one ring, and then the national title one, so I had 2 rings in my possession, and we've won. I don't know. I think we've by now we have like 10 or 11 conference rings and that type of thing. So he gave me all of his rings.
Oh, nice.
Last year. So I have them all up in my office on campus in a ring case. And like I said, I told this mother, I said, I hate looking this arrogant, but I know kids like looking at this stuff because it's usually off in the corner. But right now it's like right in front of my desk. Yeah. So
there's a little bit of that in recruiting, right?
You kind of got to a little bit. And I try not to let that be me, but I do know, like I would have thought that was cool, when I was a kid and high school kid, seeing all that stuff and just seeing what is possible, and to me, it's more so, it's just proof, that we have a really good program here, and
and part of it too is playing for something.
Yeah,
like everybody when you're playing sports, you want to play for something, and sometimes with like an NAIA program, or for me it was JUCO. Right, I went the JUCO route at Iowa Central, and I didn't know what we were playing for because I didn't follow JUCO sports growing up. I didn't follow NAIA sports growing up, but when I knew that Iowa Central was playing for national championships in baseball, that meant so. I was like, oh man, that would be fun to compete for a national championship. Same thing, I guess, with NAIA recruits. It's like, oh, I could go there and get a ring, right? Because all you see is Ohio State versus whoever on Saturdays, but there's other stuff to play for than just Clemson, Ohio State, those type of teams. I think that's important to guys that want to compete.
No doubt. And to me, yes, you do want to have I don't know if end in sight is the right word, but something to work towards, and that's why I still don't quite understand. I know FCS is playing in the spring, but I don't know that they're having playoffs. I mean, because I've been told there's been, maybe some leagues that are doing that. I'm like, man, don't get me wrong, I love playing, but I just feel like you got to play for something. However, this is just kind of a different year. I do understand that, and to me, there's nothing more important than just putting that ball down and going to work and trying just beating the other guy across from you. That's really the ultimate high, I guess, when you go out and you beat somebody and you beat them on that day. But at the end of the year, and this has happened once here, and we've only had this feeling once. You know you're the best. There's not a whole lot better feeling in sports than that, and I wish every coach could experience that. And I've been lucky to be a part of it, and that's what drives us to get that feeling one more time.
So, Joe, the way we end every episode of the Moonlight Graham Show is with the 5 big questions.
Oh boy!
First question is, who is your all-time favorite teammate?
Wow.
It's not just softballs today, Woodley. We're bringing the heaters here.
Oh man, because if I say the wrong person, here we go. I'll say my brother Andy was my teammate. My sophomore year at Valley, he was. We were on the same team, so I can use that one.
In basketball or football?
Football.
What position did Andy play in football?
He played both ways. He was receiver and safety. I was just a linebacker my sophomore year with him. So.
How was he on the football field?
About like he is off the field. He's again got all the answers. He talks more than everybody, and He always had to look nice and, spat on his shoes and wrist tape and, all that type of stuff.
Out of the brothers, is he the one that has to look the best all the time?
It's always been that way. He was I know I'm a mama's boy, but early on he was the one always in the kitchen cooking with her and one always go shopping with her, things like that. So yeah, he's always been GQ. He always had the fancy whatever was in style he was doing, and
yeah.
Me and Matt were kind of the slobs of the family.
When you look back on your playing career, what's one play or one game? Maybe you already answered this with the Nebraska one, but what's one play or one game that, like, when you close your eyes at night, you think, man, that was awesome?
Well, that Nebraska one's got to be probably up there, but I'll just give you another one. And at the time, I didn't know how big of a deal. Well, I shouldn't even say it was a big deal. I didn't realize who it was at the time. So playing Texas my senior year, I intercepted Vince Young.
Oh, yeah.
So that was – but again, he was I don't know if he was he was a freshman. I don't know if he was true or not. But I think it might have been his first start. But that guy didn't throw many interceptions in college,
he was
if you
unbelievable.
remember back. And, of course, that got better and better the longer he was at Texas. And, he had a couple good years in the NFL. So that was kind of that's been kind of a neat deal to kind of have in the back pocket. But just off the top of my head, as far as kind of name dropping, I guess that would probably be one of the better plays. Or scoring a touchdown at Iowa, the go-ahead touchdown, the year we were down 24-7 at half.
I was going to bring that one up.
That one was again kind of a pretty big high. It was because Kinnick's, as much as I'm a Cyclone fan, Kinnick's pretty neat atmosphere, and especially that night. Because I want to say it might have been the first time that game's ever been played at night.
Because it was that was the 9/11 year, right?
It was the following 9/11. We played on Thanksgiving weekend, okay, and then this was the following year. So it was Seneca's last senior year,
mm-hmm.
and of course we all know he went crazy in the second half of that game, and he actually stole a ball from me. We were supposed to, I was supposed to maybe score one other touchdown. We were running belly. Down on that was a good play for us in that situation. It was like belly option, and it was supposed to be a give, and he pulled it, and I think he scored. So, I'll forgive him for it, of course. But yeah, that was certainly a fun moment there.
Is there a play or a game that still nags at you?
100%. My and I already made mention of it. It was my senior year Dowling game.
Was that Matt McCree?
No.
Who was for Dowling? I'm trying to place that team.
Well, they had you may remember some of these. Well, Tyson Smith.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Brian Ali. They had a
good
big offensive tackle
too.
That went to
Doty John Doty.
Went to K-State. Dwayne Long played
That's
at Nebraska, and they just had a nice team. I mean, they did, but we had beaten them. I don't know by like 30 in the regular season in the opener. And we were clearly a better team, and they'll tell you to this day. And one of our coaches here on staff, who passed away this year, Coach Barnabo, God rest his soul, he was the D coordinator on that Dowling team, and he says we lost by 30, and he always, it's so funny how he used to say it. He just say, and I thought we played well, So, but then we play them. So most people that are Iowa people or Central Iowa people know. And this was 1998, but every year prior to that, if Dowling and Valley made the playoffs, they were playing in the first round. This is the only year it never happened. So we played Council Bluffs, Abe Lincoln, or something like that in the first round of the playoffs, and we won 50-0. And didn't get worked up too much, but beautiful night to play. One of them deals. So fast forward till how do we do that back then? You'd play Wednesday.
Oh yeah.
Then Monday.
Yeah.
So we played Wednesday, and then I don't know. I want to say it started raining Thursday or Friday, and it didn't stop raining from Wednesday or Thursday, whenever it started, and it rained through our game on Monday. Now this is back when we didn't have field turf. Played at Old Valley Stadium, and it just turned it into a mud bowl. I mean, it was just a mess.
Sounds like a lot of excuses here.
Hey, it is. But what it did, I mean, it equalized it. I mean, it slowed us down, and I know it slowed them down too. But believe me, I've talked to about every coach involved in that game for Dowling and some of the players, and they were praying for it, praying for rain. And it was a 7-7 ball game at the end of regulation, and we believe we scored on 3rd and 4th down in overtime. Officials didn't give it to us, so we had to go out and hold them on defense, and they ran a couple plays, got it to I think Dylan told me they wanted to get it to a dry piece of grass, on the hash.
Sure.
So they just kind of ran a couple plays, kicked a field goal, beat us 10-7. So
good practice. The officials must have been good Catholics. That's what I'm hearing.
I don't know.
Good practice.
They must have been. God was on their side that night, that's for sure.
So you've obviously had a lot of good male role models in your life. Good female. I mean, your mom, Betsy, you've brought up a handful of times too. But outside of your family, outside of your dad, outside of your older brothers, who's a role model that you've had growing up?
I think I know who it is right away, but just let me make sure here I don't leave one out. So outside of my family, probably the guy that has made the biggest influence on me is Coach McCarney. My middle name's Mac. I've been, I thought that was cool ever since I was a little kid because he and my dad GA'd at Iowa together. And
so your middle name is after Dan McCarney?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. And I actually think
you weren't going anywhere else.
I actually think it was my mom's idea because my mom, she would cook for Dad and Mac all the time when they were young GAs, and my mom loved Mac, and I think she might have given it to me. I'm sure Dad maybe put it in her ear, but yeah, he's pretty special to me, and he's just one of those guys that he's always he always makes you feel like the most important person in the world, whenever you're with him or talking to him. And then, he gave me the opportunity of a lifetime to go to college for free and play football and help be part of that turnaround. And, so yeah, it's, and to this day, I mean, he still calls me after every game. That's crazy. I know there's coaches out there that played for their college coaches that don't do that.
He calls you after every game.
He does, and he came to a game last year. Came down on the sidelines, came to a game, and
I bet that fired the guys up.
Oh yeah. Well, so prior to the year, during fall camp, he came and spoke to the team too. So that fired him up.
Yeah.
That was it took me back. It was really a neat. It was just kind of fun to see our players' reaction to him, and he of course, as you're a Cyclone fan, that guy is, he's got so much energy and one-liners, and he's just like I said, outside my my dad, my brothers, Mac's got to be right there.
Cool. Final question here, Joe. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Oof. Best advice, treat people the way you want to be treated. Again, that was one of my dad's things he always talked about, and I think that's why he's had a lot of success in this profession. He's been still doing it, which I don't know how. He's 69 years old, and I've told him a million times there's no way I'm coaching when I'm 69, but he says, you just wait, and maybe he's right. It's in our blood, and, it's fun to be competitive, and it's just in you. I think I heard Bill Parcells say one time it's like a narcotic, coaching, competing, playing. Man, is it hard to shake. And but yeah.
Speaking of that, like hearing your dad's, I think, starting the Mount Marty program up right now, which is insane. I mean, it just shows what a program builder he is and how good of a coach and how well respected he is for somebody to bring him in at 68 years old when he started. But how often are you talking to your team, or you're at practice, you're in the game, and you just catch yourself and you're like,
yeah, it's probably daily. I'll say something or do something, and they're like, okay, Mike, or something like that. And of course, nobody called him Mike, but we can when he's not around, So, but yeah, and I take it as a compliment most of the time. there's sometimes like, oh gosh, I am getting old or whatever.
When you would coach with your dad, did you call him coach or did you call him dad?
I called him Dad.
Yeah.
I did. I didn't know any other way to do it. And if I needed to yell at him or something halfway down the field or something, I might say coach or something like that.
Right.
But I've been I guess I established this early on, and I've been Coach Joe for forever here at Grandview, and kids still call me that because I guess it's just kept getting passed over. Because if I would have been Coach Woodley, there would have been two of us turning our heads back when we started. So I just said, you guys call me Coach Joe, and I don't get real hung up. And shoot, some kids used to just call me Joe. I don't get real hung up in that.
Yeah.
And so you got to earn it a little bit, but I ain't letting any freshmen come in here and say that to me. But
Right.
but yeah, that's it's Dad. It's always been Dad. Always will be.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Joe, thank you. Coach Joe, thank you so much for joining the Moonlight Graham Show. It's always good to connect with some former Fort Dodgers. I know, you're 7-8 years in Fort Dodge.
You bet. I appreciate it, man. Great time.
Hey guys, thanks once again to listening to today's episode of the Moonlight Graham Show. And even though I do most of the interviews here on the podcast, there is a ton of work that happens behind the scenes that you guys don't see that make each episode possible. So I got to give a shout out to the Moonlight Graham Show team. First of all, Brian Sandvig, our producer. Brian does all of the post-production work, and in real life, he's not just a podcast producer, he's also a real estate agent. So if you're looking to buy or sell a home down in the Kansas or Missouri areas, give Brian Sandvig a call. Next guy on that list is Brendan Gargano. Brendan does all of our design and artwork here on the podcast. He's one of the most talented artists I've ever met, and I love all of his work. If you need any help on the design side with logos or anything like that, give Brendan Gargano a call. The next guy on that list is Andy Flattery, my older brother. Andy, of course, has done some of the interviews here on the podcast. He also is a certified financial planner. He owns a business called Simple Wealth Planning. If you need any help in that area, check Andy Flattery out. And then, of course, the trusty co-host Tom Griffin and my younger brother Neil Flattery. Those guys are just busy being husbands, being fathers, they're family men, but also they do a ton of work here on the show. So thanks again for listening. We really appreciate you guys subscribing and supporting the Moonlight Graham Show.